Okay, so today we're going to be doing the container with the most water question. This is a really popular interview question, supposedly. Um, but basically, the premise is it's a two-pointer question, um, and you are using a math equation within it to get the length, right, and multiply that by the smallest number in the minimum. And with that, what it does is you're going to get an output. You want to check if the output is the highest value every single time. Um, and throughout um, the duration of the while loop, once it's done, you want to return the max, right? So how are we going to do this problem? Well, you're given just an array, right? And your array is going to look like this. And the first thing that we need to do is create two pointers, obviously, right? So you're going to have your start and you're going to have your end. And when creating two pointers, you know the start is usually at 0 and your end is usually at the length of the array minus 1. And then that's what you have, right? And then you do a while loop. Well, start is less than, and then this is where you start writing your things. But what we're going to do first is we're going to do max underscore area as a variable and set this equal to 0 because this is our answer, right? This is what we're going to be returning, which would do answer what we are returning. There you go, right? And we'll start as less than n. What we're going to do is first create a variable called length. And length is basically just start minus n, right? We're going to need this to get our max area. So if we're starting at 1 and 7, this is just going to be giving us the length, and when we iterate throughout this array, we're just going to be, the length will be continuously changing. And then what we're going to do is get max underscore sum. We're going to make this a variable where we're going to grab our length, right? Length. We're going to multiply this by the minimum value of start and end, right? Like I mentioned before, this is basically what we're going to be comparing to, our max sum. You're going to get the length. You're going to find the minimum of these values. So for this instance, if we're starting at start and that's at 0 and n is 7, right? The minimum would be 1, right? So it'd be 1 times the length, right? Then we do equivalent if statement. If max underscore area, right, is less than max underscore sum, then max underscore area equals max sum. Because remember how I mentioned that max area will be changing? This is what I mean, right? So for the first iteration, max area will most definitely change because it's set equal to 0. But as we go on through the loop, we need to see what's going to happen. And then this is basically just the majority of what's going on. The last thing you need to do is if array at index start is less than array at index n, then start plus equals 1. Oop, there you go. Else n minus equals 1. Right? So this is just to basically get the answer we're looking for. And then to iterate, we need to just do these simple conditions where if start is less than n, iterate start by 1. Else if, just do n minus 1. Right? And then if we were to test this out and plug in our array as the argument and print out test, we should get, it's because we didn't return max underscore area, right? Max area equals max sum. What am I missing? If max area is less than max sum, should equal it. Oh, it's because let's see. There you go. All right. The, the reason is that I was doing start minus n, and for the first iteration, like it would be less than because you have 1 minus 7, right? And that's no good. So we had to fix that up. There you go. So your answer is 49. This is the output that needs to be, right? So just a quick recap. 2 pointers, start and end, right? You create I wouldn't necessarily call this a dummy variable, but more of a placeholder, right? Max area equals 0, right? You do a while loop. You usually always do a while loop when you're doing 2 pointers, right? You set a variable called length, which equals n minus start, right? Your n and start aren't necessarily the value. For instance, the value is 1 and 7. N and start equals like the indexes. So start is 0, and n is the length, right? And as you continue on, start will increment by 1, and will decrease by 1. So that length will be constantly changing. You set a variable called max sum, which equals that length multiplied by the lowest value. So you notice how I said value. So now when you do this array at index start, you're not getting the index, you're getting the value. So start is 0, your value is 1. Array end is basically the length, the last. So this will give you the value of 7, right? So this will just be your length times 1 because it's the lowest value, right? Um, and then if max area is less than, then you replace it with the max sum. Then you just do these simple conditions where you iterate by 1 and decrease by 1, and you return the max area.